And we're live. Hello, everyone. This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Brett Rutherford, joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Darby Robinson. We are live on youtube.com/@RaiseYourVoice and on X @DRaisBay. We're also available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure, especially on Apple Podcasts, rating and reviewing our show is the best way to spread what we do to more and more Rays fans. And if you really want to say thank you, head on over to patreon.com/raiseyourvoice, where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like this video, subscribe if you're not already, and hit that notification button so you know exactly when you go live. And you can join us. We've had some good crowds, some good comments. You have any questions, comments, throw them up there. We'll do our best to get to them. Darby, man, it's Memorial Day. We're a third of the way through the season. Just lost 2 out of 3 to Kansas City, a very good Kansas City team, I should add. But I feel like the vibes around the Rays, it's not panic anymore. I think it's more of a malaise. We are all kind of accepting the fact that maybe this team isn't as special or as talented as it has been in recent years.
I think the problem there is just like it's so confusing, right? Like I think before the injury, like before the failure of the team was because they're injured, right? Then at this point, it's just one of those things where you just like expect better from everybody. And so like maybe that's just like one of those years where everybody's just down and they stay down for the majority of it. And that's fine. That happens. But like it is an annoying thing because like this team didn't come into this year planning to be bad. Like this team is, for all intents and purposes, outside of one person like going to prison, like a team that is a 90+ win club, right? Or still in the legal process of the Dominican Republic. Who knows? That might be the next several years is waiting a trial. But like this is still like a team, like, right? Like, okay, you lose some good pitchers, sure, but like the offense is basically the same. Like, yeah, it would help to have like a potential 8 to 10 win shortstop, but like this team isn't just like slightly worse. They're one of the worst offenses in all of baseball. It's the weakest offense in terms of power, like in all these stats. It like bottom 5 and bottom 10 in pretty much every stat that matters in offense. That's the level that's like hard to like accept so far, and why it's been such a weird vibe season. Because yeah, it's like, okay, if Randy Arozarena and Yandy Diaz were hurt and you're missing Wander and your pitching staff like lost all of the aces, that's different, right? You can accept like, all right, just not going to be that year. There's some key players that are healthy that are just not contributing, and they just haven't been for now too long to have it be like everybody's fine, nothing's going to be a problem, they'll easily be able to shake out of it, they'll bounce back. You know, the time has run out for just like, oh, they'll easily jump back. It's still plenty of time, because with 3 wildcard teams, you really don't. You can be a bad team and make the postseason now. Like I don't
think some people are, but I don't think I'm ready to write the Rays obituary yet. Like this team is disappointing, frustrating, like you said.
Absolutely.
Randy Arozarena being like prime suspect for that, right? And there was an uptick in May. Like his WRC plus was, I think, over 100, but was still like his batting average was incredibly low. The on base percentage was still sub 300.
So bad.
When he was squaring up balls, it was great. He's just never squaring up baseballs. And we've seen what it looks like when Randy Arozarena can do that. And the drum that I was banging all off season is that Randy Arozarena is your most consistent player. He has been a 3-win player every year for 3 straight years. And while that's not superstar level in terms of just baseball ability, to pay Randy Arozarena, what is he making? $10 million this year?
Something like that.
You know, for a hitter supposed to be in his prime age years.
27, 28. Yeah.
You take that every day. And what we've seen from him has been incredibly disappointing.
What also needs to be said about that is that it's not like 2 months. This has been a very, very long, prolonged slump.
Well, a
And
lot
it
of
really
people
dates
will
back.
say since the second half, since the All-Star break last year, where he competed in the
Right.
home run derby. Do you buy into the home run derby having any effect on this?
I don't know if I don't know if I do 100%. I know there's like the whole idea that like you change your swing and it like breaks your swing, for potentially a while after.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully buy into that. However, maybe not so much for the home run derby, but for just Randy himself, like kind of wanting to sort of sell out for power. That might be the thing that broke his
Well, in the
back.
first half last year, that's not what he was doing at all.
No.
He was being very selective at the plate. He was spraying the ball. I have to verify that. I don't know for sure, but it felt like he was spraying the ball more. And
He
the home runs
he was a more complete hitter. He was a
and
more
the home
complete
runs
hitter.
were coming because of that. He was having so
Right.
much success because of that. And
He has that fast bat that can get to balls and such natural power that he can he can get stuff out. And we saw that during his postseason run, the one big like coming out 2020 postseason run that made the legend. It was because he's not Isaac Paredes. He's not hitting pulled fly balls. It's center field, it's left field, it's right field. It's kind of all over power, which is just not happening right now.
And it felt like the first half of last year, he took that step. He took that leap to where, hey, this guy's just crazy athletic and has got a lot of strength, so he's going to drive the ball to all fields, to where Randy wasn't like watching video until last year. And then he goes to the home run derby. And I think a lot of maybe similar to the way he steals bases, right? He thinks maybe he's faster than he is. He thinks he's more of a slugger than he is. But the thing is, he can be an all-star when he's not, when he's not trying to hit 35 plus home runs a season. He doesn't need to be that. The Rays have had very few 30 home run seasons in their history. More than I know like Paredes had one like last year, and Brandon Lau a couple years ago. But the Rays have never been built on the home run ball.
Well, and the thing is, last year, so like Randy Arozarena finishes with a 3.1 Fangraphs wins above replacement. Good hitting, right in the standard year of 126 WRC plus. Had a nice OPS of 800. The issue was that second half after the home run derby, it really started to fall apart, and that 3 wins above replacement. And that OPS was kind of incredible because like his first half, it really showed how great his first half was, because that second half was kind of a mess. So I had to look it up. So and it's just like, listen, I'm just you have to have arbitrary endpoints. So I'm just putting the all-star weekend as the break, right? So second half of last year to now, Randy Arozarena has had 495 plate appearances. He's gotten 15 home runs in that time. That's basically 500 plate appearances is basically a full season. If you really go full, it's about 600. But about
and Randy's had over 600 in every year other than 2020.
Right. Yeah. He's played pretty much all the time. That's the thing, right? So you're getting close to a full season's worth of production. Still has 100 plate appearances, but 100 plate appearances to get, to his normal of 25 home runs. That's quite a bit. That would be a big power tear.
A huge pace.
Another 10. In that time, so 495 plate appearances. He has a slash line of a batting average of 192, on base percentage of 297, and a slugging percentage of 343. A 640 OPS, which is really bad. Really bad. That's like defensive, speedy guy. If Jose Siri gave you a 640, you'd be like, all right, I'll take it. It's fine. He does other things. Randy doesn't do the other things. He's not good on the bases, and he's he's below replacement level defensively. So you kind of need the bat. That is his carrying tool. Weighted runs created plus is only 87. And that's 500 plate appearances of a below replacement level corner outfielder. That is a platoon bat, and maybe not even a great platoon bat.
So what do you do with
him? That's a long time.
Do you continue to play him as an everyday player like they have for 3+ years? Or I know right now with Josh Lowe going down again, kind of leaves you in a position where he is going to continue to play every day. But let's say Josh Lowe gets back relatively soon from the injured list, and you've got your options of Lowe, of DeLuca, of Siri, and of Palacios. Do you see Randy start to lose some playing time? It's not like he's been extended, right? He is just a veteran player on this team. I don't think he's promised more than anyone else.
I don't know what you do with Randy Arozarena. It's really tough. I think they dropped him in the order, which is good.
And they gave him an off day.
Gave him an off day.
First off day of the year.
I think you do have to have him miss more time. Like the Tampa Bay Times had an article today or yesterday that was about like posing the hypothetical question of, do you send, because Randy Arozarena has options remaining.
Oh wait, you're not talking about the one about the Mexico League? Not that article?
No. That one is not a speculation that we need to talk about. That's not something we need to wonder about. It's we can leave that for a different medium. We're not wondering about that. We're kind of just not worried about a person who's probably never going to set foot in this country again. So who cares? Not too worried about his future playing career. Whether the Mexican League will give him a chance or not. Who cares? Probably not high on Wander's like worry list either.
Right.
I would say. Now the thing is, Randy Arozarena being sent down to Durham, you would have to be so careful with that. That would have to be a decision where you are like literally seeing, like, there's a broken swing and he needs to rework it all. But like that's what spring training is for. Like that is what during the season, like I think I would much prefer, because I feel like if you send him down, there's a like very good chance that like he just never plays again with this team. Like you send him down and he like kind of struggles down there, and like mentally it all kind of falls apart, and you trade him in the off season, and it's just like it like ruins the relationship forever. I think you'd have to, if it does happen, you would have to be very, 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 very careful to work with him to come to that decision. And I just don't see any player that's going to like really choose that. So I think
not Randy either, because he is a competitor, right? Like he doesn't.
Right.
He made a comment to the media. Well, he was probably asked, but when he did not play on Sunday yesterday, right?
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, I really wanted to play."
Or 2 days ago, Saturday.
2 days ago, Saturday. Really wanted to play 162, but not my decision. And nothing wrong with that comment, right? Like, of course he wants to play, and of course he wants to get out of this slump.
If somebody's saying like, "Yeah, please bench me. I gotta get out of here." Like
that's like an Anthony Rendon style.
Yeah, that's Anthony Rendon being like, "Can I be benched?
Yeah.
Do I have to show up? Can I like telework today from my home? Like I can just like do scouting reports. No, you need me there. All right."
He might be better served in a role like that because he does understand hitting really well. I don't think he likes baseball. So maybe he
doesn't like baseball.
Work from home.
What a Sisyphusian like setup that he has, like pushing that rock up this hill constantly. Of like you're gifted at this thing that you clearly despise.
Don't like.
Now, okay, with Randy, I think if I had the very difficult job of like being Kevin Cash and trying to figure out how do you proceed with one of your star players who's been your worst player? Like that's really tough, right? Like we can talk about like Alex Jackson is hitting like maybe the worst batting like in all of Major League Baseball, but like he's a catcher. He's a defensive first catcher. Like who cares? Like he's also like the backup catcher. Like I
was promised with Alex Jackson that he would like run into one, and I'm just not. It's only been
run into.
It's been like a handful of games. It's been a handful of games. I know I'm being a little harsh, but it's like the guy's striking out like every time.
But like Jose Siri and Alex Jackson can look miserable at the plate, absolutely terrible. But like they're not here to do that. Randy is your 3-hole hitter. Like here's your 3-hole hitter. Like we're not batting Alex Jackson cleanup and being like, all right, go get him, slugger. Jose Siri's batting 9th. So I think that's what you have to. I think you have to treat Randy right now like he is Alex Jackson, Jose Siri-esque, which is put him down at like 7, maybe. I think 6 is fine. 6 is the gentleman's 7. That's 6 is the like veteran.
You're on the bottom
star
third of the lineup. You are 6, like 4, 5, 6 is some people consider that, the meat of the order. And so you're 6.
That's true. Yes, exactly. So Julio Rodriguez with the Mariners has been really struggling. He also got dropped to 6. 6 is like
after
I'm
5,
dropping him in the
cares?
order, but I'm not like embarrassing them, right? Like you drop him to 8th, that's like a statement of like, this is one of our worst hitters.
You drop him to 7th or 8th, and then you're hitting guys like Jose Caballero or Ben Rortvedt ahead of them. And like that, it's just that's a really bad sign.
Right now, those are the guys that have actually won games for the Rays this year. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, that's the thing. The Rays have built a team that have the role players of a postseason contender. They just don't have the stars performing at the level of a postseason contender, right? Like everything Jose Caballero has done and Ben Rortvedt has done, you would absolutely take it before the season. You go, Jose Caballero is X. This is the guy. You're like, excellent. Rays are going well because Yandy Diaz and Josh Lowe and Randy Rosarena and Brandon Lau are taking care of the top. Jose Caballero is a scrappy 100 WRC plus, like, fantastic glove shortstop. The problem is that's why the problem keeps going back to Randy. It's always Randy, because you need so much more production from that bat to make this lineup work, because you really you can't expect, like, I can look at like Richie Palacios and like he'll make an out when it's like a big time in the order, but like, who cares? He's given you already way more than you're expecting, right? Like, it's like, oh, Johnny DeLuca didn't come through. Who cares? He's batting like 140 WRC plus. Like he did come through in a clutch moment. And Jose Caballero comes up in a clutch moment and lines it out. He almost won that game on Saturday in extra innings. It just so happened to be lined right to Bobby Witt Jr. Yeah. So like that's the thing, right? It's like Randy's not getting that. He is not producing. And in that same game, you had both Randy and Yandy on the bench. They both get called in and they both really blew it. Like, they were the ones that kind of blew it there. So that's the issue right now with the team is Brandon Lau's back healthy. He needs to contribute. He had the biggest hit, probably the biggest hit of any Ray, like in like a week with that pitch hit, bases clearing, game winning triple. That was huge. So need Brandon Lau back. Yandy has definitely turned the corner. He is definitely much, much better. Like, he is starting to look like he's having an off season, but like he is performing better. Randy is just not getting there. Like, May has been better. The power's there, but it's all power. It's selling out all power. And that is the problem.
Andy Freed, I was listening to the game over the weekend, and Andy Freed did make a good point. Sometimes when these hitters, they go through a cold streak, and it happens to every hitter. Even guys that have MVP seasons, their slumps might last 3 games and not 3 months, but it happens. And we expect, just out of nowhere, a 4 for 5 game to come up with a home run and 2 doubles. And it doesn't typically happen like that. And then all of a sudden they're fixed, right? You start to see them work better at bats, and then they start to get a few more results. And then finally, they resemble the hitter that they are, and that they should be when they're not running cold. So I've seen a little bit of that from Randy, but man, like you said, like, time's not running out, but the clock is ticking. And it's like, this team currently sits at 26 and 28, 10 and a half games out of the American League East. And the East is done. Over. Yeah. The Yankees are 37 and 18. They look like the best team in the American League. They look like the best team in the American League by far. The Guardians I know have a really good record, but the Yankees are by far better than the Guardians.
It's a 2-team race at the top, and it's Baltimore or New York. Yeah. I don't think the Guardians are all that close to them. I think they're a fun team, but again,
I like the Royals better than the Guardians.
I think there's an argument to be made there. Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made there. I think it depends upon your flavor. I think the Mariners are probably the weakest division leading team. Amazing pitching, but that offense is as bad as the Rays.
Where do you let's say like the Rays and the Astros traded schedules, and so the Rays are playing the AL West and the Astros are in the AL East. Where would the Rays be in the AL West right now?
I think we would still be talking about the division.
Maybe a couple games back out of first, maybe close to where the Rangers are. I mean, the Rangers are 25 and 29.
I think what you look at is like, I think somewhere between like the Astros and the Rangers, like that level is like, I think the Rays at this level, they faced a lot of bad teams. Like I think the record, the schedule has not been that bad to the Rays. Like they have faced like the Mets and the White Sox, and like this is a team that has been struggling against pretty mediocre teams. Like that is the thing. Like, you know, they've actually, the best games they've played against good teams have been the Yankees.
And the Royals,
like
they played competitive. Even a couple of ones they lost against the Royals, there was competitive.
They did have a good lot. They did have a closer games. Those were a lot closer, more of a pitching, like kind of good job by the pitchers as well. Like Taj again. I mean, like I think Taj has had, I think he had one win, but like the rest of his games have been either him trailing or no decisions or losses, but it's never been his fault. Like he is
there is not really, a player I'm more high on this Rays team right now than Taj Bradley.
He took every step forward. Like everything he looked, all the stuff that was great last year, he just now looks like a complete pitcher. So like
he had the one start against Boston. Yeah, he's must watch TV. The game against Boston where he was perfect through three. It was perfect, or maybe he allowed one walk, but was perfect pitching in those first 3 innings. Had a ton of strikeouts, and then things kind of fell apart. And some people, well, you know, he's got to figure that out. Which it's true, he does. But you have to be a certain level of pitcher to dominate in that way through one time through the order, through 3 innings. And so to see him do that, I'm not worried about him figuring out the other stuff. We've seen every young Rays pitcher work through things like this. Blake Snell, Chris Archer, and they both turned out to be all-stars. David Price.
Yeah.
He's going to be an all-star. He's going to be an all-star.
Tyler Glasnow, even now, even today, like even like in a season that like he's again putting up like, I mean, Tyler Glasnow when healthy, he's like puts up Cy Young caliber stuff. Like you'll see him have a game where he like has an inning where he just like gets like tagged for like 5 or something. And it's like whatever, who cares?
Like I don't know if you remember Blake Snell against the Mariners where he struck out 9 in a row to start the game. Blake Snell against the Rockies, where he was just the curveball was finding the strike zone, like every pitch was working. Those 3 innings is what that looked like for Taj Bradley. And so you have to be a certain level of talent. You have to have a certain level of talent to be able to do that for that amount of time. And so he looked really sharp again in his next start.
It's the pitching equivalent of when you talk about like you see a guy in like batting practice and like the ball just like sounds different. It's that thing where it's like, okay, that's in his bag is the elite level. Whether he's there right now, this year, by the end of this year, next year, whatever, like, you know that like, okay, that's special stuff. That's the like, that is really, really elite level stuff that not everybody is shown. Like even good pitchers don't have the like sizzle that like that has.
Right.
That's the type of stuff we saw with like Spencer Strider before he popped, like before he like became huge. Like it's like, holy crap, like that's amazing. So I think the Rays, I think we need to get into this because like the people, the Rays fans, the public, the angry masses, they're upset. They are troubled by this team and this season, and I don't blame them. It's been a miserable slog, but we do have to like keep focused on like what this team is, and I think they are neither the worst team in baseball, but you also, again, you have to look at it as like they are clearly out of the Yankees and Orioles league in terms of just like that top talent right now. Now, like performance wise, like if the Rays were slumping and the process and the batted ball data, like Jonathan Aranda came up and he has been hitting the ball really well and it hasn't been falling for him. But I'm like, I just think you need to give him more at bats because everything else is looking great. Like he's making good decisions. He's putting good contact on the ball. And this weekend, he actually had a couple of great games. Like he had a home run, his first home run of the season. Like that's the thing. Right now, the Rays batting, it's been bad. The process has been bad. The results have been worse, but they've all been justified. So you do have to look at that and say like, okay, the Rays aren't just like unlucky and the Yankees are lucky. The Yankees batted ball data is amazing. It's immaculate and it's all working. And yes, they can get some unluckiness. You know, like the Dodgers have lost 5 in a row. Braves just lost Ronald Acuna for the season. Like that can happen, right? Like a wrong turn on the diamond and Juan Soto or Aaron Judge goes down. But they're just doing so many things better that they already have the banked wins. They already have all of those things going for them. I don't think it's unfair to say for the Rays that their target should just be changed. It just should be changed. And if the Orioles aren't in the division, then maybe you can go like, okay, maybe the Yankees can falter, but the Yankees and the Orioles faltering, I just don't see that. I just don't see that happening this year. I think they are much more, the Rays are much more in that pile with teams like Kansas City and Cleveland and Seattle and Texas and Houston and Toronto and Boston. Like, the not bad, but definitely not elite level teams.
So I don't know if I believe this sort of thing, but I'm curious about your thoughts because this has always been a discussion about the Rays. I don't know, for the last 6 years, maybe longer. Are they a team? People have always said they're a team built for the regular season, but not for the postseason, which I think that's a load of crap. But maybe the flip side of that is maybe this team, as long as they're good enough. Well, if they're good enough to get to the dance, I don't see how they're much different from last year's Rays. Like, I mean, with the guys they have coming back, like if you could run Shane Baz and Drew Rasmussen out of the bullpen, I don't know, like they could beat anybody, right? If you're 3-game rotation or 4-game rotation is, Bradley, Littell, Pepio, Springs, like Eflin's still in there. And then you've got Baz and Rasmussen. Now, again, will that all come together? Like, no, like there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be trades, but there's a good enough group there. And then I imagine if the Rays are in the postseason, Junior Camanero's on that roster. I'm guessing, but it feels that way. You'd
imagine.
They did it last year, right? And they were, the roster is probably less talented. Just without
I think you're going to see something. We'll talk about Caminero probably on another show, just because. Right now it's still packed. I think by the time July rolls around, I think some things will be shifted, and we'll talk about that today.
I'm flying from Raleigh to Kansas City around 4th of July, and I'm hoping that Junior is on the flight because the Rays are playing the Royals that week. And so maybe, I'll let everybody know if we're on the plane together.
There you go. You can break the news.
Yeah, we'll see though.
You break the news.
He can have my seat too. If it means him getting to the game, he can have my seat if the flight is booked.
There you go. Perfect.
I'll take one for the team.
Are the Rays built to make a run in?
Not necessarily built to.
Sure.
But
I mean, like, can they make the run? Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, you mentioned the role players. Right? Like that's huge in the postseason to have Richie Palacios on the bench in a postseason. That sounds pretty awesome. A Swiss Army knife to have.
So that's the thing, right? It's okay. So like the Rays have the pitching. It has not been fully there so far, but they have the pitching, and we've seen the flashes. And absolutely, this pitching can dominate enough to win. And pitching wins in October. Like that's kind of the big thing. The part that gives me pause is the power. Do they have the power to win? Because the other thing is, in the postseason, the teams that hit home runs and strike out other batters, they win. I don't know if like the teams like Cleveland, who just are single machines, I don't know if they can win.
Yeah, the Yankees and Orioles will hit home runs. I think the Royals can hit some home runs as well. Seattle can hit some home runs if they get everybody right. I don't know. The Rays, like you said, every power metric. Now you could, like I said, we keep talking about him. You could fix that. You got the best power hitting prospect you've ever had.
You have Caminero. You have Brandon Lau. That's like your two power guys, and Isaac Paredes sort of like in a weird way. In like he is a power guy, but in a weird way, not like the way that you'd expect. And Randy Arozarena, right? So one of those guys is hurt. One of those guys just came back, and one of those guys is slumping badly. And that's your problem. You can't lose 4 power hitters. But here's the thing. To your point about who can compete in October, this team, the Rays, this year so far, in 2 really bad months of offensive baseball, have a team slash line of 235 batting average, 308 on base percentage, and a 354 slugging percentage. and a weighted runs created plus of 96. Last year, with the team that went to the World Series to face the Texas Rangers, the Arizona Diamondbacks, had a season-long slash line of 250 batting average, 322 on-base percentage, 408 slugging, and a 97 WRC plus. So you were looking at basically the identical offense to a team that went to the World Series. You don't need a lot of offense. You don't need a lot of offense in October because runs are hard to come by for even the best offenses.
Yeah.
You do need to be able to generate runs. So what I would like to see going forward still is not like, can the Rays put together like 3 or 4 runs a game and then squeak by a win? It's more like, how do they produce those runs? Are they able to get a double and drive in a run from first? That's the problem, right? Like normally the Rays power lineups aren't just necessarily a bunch of home run sluggers. They can have that, but like you can't score on just singles. Like you can't. You can get one double, a single and a double can score you a run with the way the Rays base run.
Yeah.
But you need the double. You're just missing that. You're like missing any kind of power, any kind of pop. And what I did like from the team this week was Kevin Cash even spoke about it. He said, like, I am concerned because, and which I think is very helpful. I think it's a very, very healthy thing to voice. And I've talked about my own frustration with the kind of toxic positivity of like, this team is fine. They're going to win. They'll be okay, whatever. And it's like, here's another series where there's no power. The absolute worst, like, plate appearances where it's like the ideas, the process is really bad. Like that's the problem, right? I think that's where Kevin Cash is seeing. Kevin Cash never talks about being afraid when the process is fine and the results are just bad, because eventually that good process will lead to good results. The process has been terrible from these Rays hitters for the most part. And that's the issue, because if that doesn't change, this team is going to keep on losing. By run differential, this should be a 10 game below team. So at this point, to be only just below 500, this team is extremely lucky. Like just sit with that. This season has been extremely fortunate results.
It's why Baseball Reference
based on how they
gives
play.
you like no chance of making the postseason, where Fangraphs is
Right.
a little more, still bullish on the Rays.
Yeah, they actually think the Rays are going to have the second best pitching team in baseball in the second half, with the Mariners at number 1. But Baseball Reference is seeing a team that can't score, is getting blown out, and is like almost 40. They're the 5th or 6th worst run differential in all of baseball. Like by Pythagorean theory, they should be about 10 or 11 games below 500 right now. So that's pretty fortunate, and it's hard to see that continuing. But that's by run differential, that's by process. So like that can change. It's saying if the Rays played like these first 2 months for the next 4, they're doomed. But the idea is that they shouldn't be playing like these first 2. Like they need to be able to put that behind them. So those are the two kind of conflicting things, right? Is like, will the team be fine? Maybe, but we should talk about like that. They haven't been. Like this is not a matter of like, just be fine, it'll all work out. It might work out, but like they have to play better. Opposite. They have to play opposite of what they've done, because it's been bad. They should try playing good, because that would be better.
So we've talked the last few weeks about roster shuffling and when are they going to get rid of Harold, and he stuck around. Erasmo was DFA'd but accepted his assignment to AAA. He's going to be back with the Bulls. And so there seems to be these other moves that happen. Josh Lowe goes back on the IL. Zach Eflin goes on the IL. This is usually how it goes, right? Nothing is perfect. Not everyone is going to be healthy, but we are getting to a point where Taylor Walls is getting close to a return, and we'll talk about the roster like nobody's hurt until they are. Mark Topkin made it seem pretty clear in the Tampa Bay Times that Taylor Walls is going to factor into the Rays. They think he's going to make their team stronger defensively. They like the switch hitting. He's a switch hitter. Sorry, and how do you think he fits onto this team? What do you think his role would be on this team?
It's really tricky right now because the same reason why it's really hard to project when a Junior Caminero call-up will be is because the three kind of irreplaceable players that unless injury occurs, you kind of have to start them every single time, are playing in all the positions kind of that fit. Now,
Yeah.
Taylor Walls can be your starting shortstop, but I think Caballero has done enough that you don't want to kind of get rid of him and you want him to play. So you can have Walls and Caballero kind of be your dueling super utility guys that can both play shortstop.
I would see Walls playing more second and Caballero sticking it short, and then Walls moving Brandon Lau to the DH spot and taking playing time away from Jonathan Aranda. Jonathan Aranda might even go down for the time being when Walls comes up.
What's tricky there is that, again, we get back to Aranda being a guy that I think was a big factor into this team going into the season, who's hit really well. Like, again, process, not results so far, but like process.
I mean, the results, like he's hitting better than he has in the big leagues. I mean,
the results are starting to come, but like before that, I don't really care about even that. It's like the batted ball, like he's not chasing, he's putting the ball in play, he's hitting it hard.
He looks comfortable.
He's not striking out. He's walking. He looks comfortable. Like those are the things that like this team needs. So like, I really don't think you can afford. I think you need to carve out roles for him. I still see the team, and I see Kevin Cash having the same thoughts. I see this team saying Johnny DeLuca and Jonathan Aranda as like important pieces of this team. And we talk about you don't want to lose players when possible, right? So like, if you can option them, you don't have to make a tough decision where you lose somebody. But like these guys are playing a lot and they're playing over a lot of people. Like Harold Ramirez is losing a lot of playing time. Jose Siri is losing a lot of playing time. Like, and it's for a good reason because like they have been two of the most like productive bats. Richie Palacios has kind of come through and like he's kind of made himself irreplaceable. Ahmed Rosario is a really important vet, but he's the guy that I could see this team moving. Like if we're looking at, should we talk about like trade discussions? Because I think that like, I think we're in the season, right? Like June is around the corner. Trades could now happen at any point, especially minor trades. And you've already seen Peter Bendix make a major trade. So like you can definitely trade at any point. I think you could look at this team and say, like, when Taylor Walls is healthy, do you want to send down Aranda, or do you really need like some lefty bats? Do you trade Ahmed Rosario? Like, what role does Rosario have? If you can't trade Harold Ramirez, because he's not going to provide enough in trade value, and you can be like, well, he's a good pinch hitter, right? And he's a good team guy, and he's a good clubhouse guy. Then you're only playing him against left-handed pitching. That's Rosario's job. And Rosario really can't play the field very well. Like his speed is great. And Rosario is like he's a really good player to have on a team. But like the team is bursting with role players without any stars.
There's a reason they waited as long as they did to pick up Rosario. This was not like plan A.
It was not.
They got a great deal. They got a good enough deal where even if you couldn't trade him and you had to DFA him at some point, you're not losing much money.
But you can trade him. Like this, that's the thing. It's like I guarantee you a team's gonna, because you don't have to get a lot. You're not like holding out for the top prospect. You're trading him for minor pieces, but like there's gonna be a market for a guy like Ahmed Rosario off the bench, especially for prorated less than 1.5 million. Like that, like you're basically paying nothing. You're like the Braves picked up Joey Wendell for the same
his
price.
Money is going to drive his value up a ton at the deadline, because you look at other veterans that are on expiring deals that are scheduled, like that are making $15 million this year, $18 million this year, and you're like, oh, I got to pay a third of that to get this guy. Like, is that worth it for 60 games or whatever? Where Rosario, it's really just a rounding error, and you could add a big league veteran that's a decent player that can play anywhere to your
pinch runner, little defensive versatility, good against lefties. I think the Rays are in that like Tommy Pham, Ahmed Rosario, like the shopping of like, here's this guy who's here who can be pretty useful.
I
And
think Rosario
with the Rays
is more valuable than Pham because I think there is a reason. Say what you will about the guy. There's a reason that Pham is like bounced around every year and he doesn't stay anywhere. Just saying, Rosario
bring up fantasy football around him, and
right?
It just makes the clubhouse tense as it gets later in the season.
I think Tommy Pham is a fine player, and he was great when he was with the Rays. I think there's a reason that like he hasn't spent more than 1 year on any team for a long time.
He has a lack of speed right now. The defense is just not there. I think Rosario can stand at more positions, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not good shortstop, but like the fact that he can play shortstop or even like at least for a couple innings, that's great. That's a huge boost.
And Rosario is only like 28. Like he's not washed. Like he might not be what he was, but I mean, guys, Evan Longoria was starting World Series games last year, and he was not the same Evan Longoria.
No, Evan Longoria is a player who started World Series games last year and cannot find a job this offseason.
Yeah,
like Tommy Pham didn't sign until like 3 weeks ago, and he signed with the White Sox, who are just there to trade him.
Like, anyone else? Like, is there anyone that won't be traded on the position player side? Any untouchables? Is it just Paredes at this point, or is Yandy on that list too?
I don't see. So, okay, during the season or off season? Because that's the question.
During the season, in the next
during the season,
before the deadline.
I don't see Yandy being traded. I don't see Paredes being traded during the season. I don't see Brandon Lau being traded during the season.
I could see Brandon Lau being traded during the season.
I just think they need to build up the trade value a little bit more.
If he heats up in the month of June, I think there's teams that might. Yeah, I'm asking for that. They're looking for a power bat.
You could see it. You could see it. I think
Yandy, I don't. Unless they continue to fall out. Yandy and Paredes are safe.
Well, and I see Yandy, I see Paredes, I personally see Lau, but I understand. There's a potential there.
Well, Brandon Lau opens up the Junior Caminero spot if you trade him.
True.
And you're not, and Diaz and Paredes would be those other two roster spots that Caminero would immediately jump into.
I think the team, I don't know how active they're going to be at the deadline trading, even if they fall out of it. But I think they're going to be in a lot of things. I think they might do a lot of trades, but like, I don't know how much of the big shopping. Like they're going to be there. And if teams really do like can't pass it up, then I think the Rays will take advantage. But like they are going to be very like, what's nice position to be in is that they do not need to trade anybody right now because they can trade them in the offseason. Yeah. If you are out on Randy, like if you're like, all right, he's getting too expensive, and we just think like like there could be like this might be the last stop on the bus before like he has no value, then you can still trade him in the offseason. Like nobody's going to take the full down year and be like, I'm not going to give you anything. But you could see it like being like, okay, during the season, he's a little bit of a mess. We don't know if we want to add that yet for the premium. But in the offseason, let's circle back and be like a team like maybe Arizona, who's a little bit out of it right now. And if they don't catch back into a race, they might be like, we could actually use them in the desert. Like that could be actually a really useful. You might have more people shopping. I think the Rays are a team that can look in this deadline and they can see what is the best deal they can get right now, and is that deal available in the offseason, or could it be better? So that's where I feel like guys like Yandy, Lau, and Randy, and even Paredes, but I think mostly Yandy, Randy, and Lau are all three guys who are absolutely going to come up in trade conversations. Rosario is going to come up in trade conversations. Siri maybe could come up in trade conversations. I don't really see a lot of like trade value there, but like I could see a team that needs an outfielder. I think and
the relievers, the relievers might be on the market.
Jason Adam absolutely is on the market. Yeah. I think Poche, Clevenger, those type of guys. I don't really see Fairbanks.
I don't see Fairbanks being dealt
on the market there.
But Armstrong, Maton, I think they're all absolutely. Like they will. I think we will see one. Like if this team is again, if they're hovering around 500, even a few games above, that's not the spot where the Rays will make a gamble trade like they did in 2021 when they got Nelson Cruz. They knew it was a gamble, in terms of like
Mhm.
wins above replacement. Like they've clearly lost that deal, right? With the Twins getting
Right.
Joe Ryan, but they felt that that was the time to push the chips in the middle and go
You
for
gain
a World
something.
Series.
Yeah.
I don't think the front office will view this year's team, and I think that's kind of how they behaved in the offseason, as this is not the year to push your chips in the middle. We feel like we're competitive. Players need to perform. That's why I can't fault, going back to like the 30,000 foot view, I cannot fault the front office for their plan of going into this season.
No.
I could tweak some things. Maybe you should have done this. I can speak in hindsight. But if your plan was have Randy Arozarena hit third and play left field every day, I would have been like, that's great.
That's a
That'll
good
be
plan.
fine. Yeah.
That's why I'm right there with you. Like I cannot look at this offseason. I cannot see this team right now and have anybody doing like a victory lap over like, I knew it. I knew they would be bad, because like that person has been saying that for like 6 years.
Yes, you're finally right. Like you finally got it.
Yeah. So like that's just you're just like you just like bet and lost like 5 years in a row, and now you finally won. So you're still
Kept doubling down.
Deep in the hole. You're bankrupt, man. You are penniless. You lost your shirt, but you finally got something. Now you got cab fare to get back home. That's it. So like, and it's all because, and it's still not even there, because like they could still like actually get into the postseason and make some noise. But like that's the thing, right? It's like you look at this team and you go like, I knew it. I knew this was a transition year. I knew they were rebuilding. I knew it. Well, they weren't rebuilding. They traded one pitcher.
On an expiring deal on last year's contract.
And they've gotten a guy back who has gotten you pretty similar like results.
Yeah.
Like Glasnow is better, sure, but like 1 year deal of Glasnow doesn't change anything marketably for this team right now. Because again, at the end of the day, this isn't a team. Like I think for me, I'm seeing a lot of narratives out there as if Eric Neander went to the offseason and traded Paredes and Yandy and Lau and Randy. And we came in and it was like starting left fielder is Richie Palacios, starting right fielder is Johnny DeLuca, starting second baseman is Jonathan Aranda. We got Junior Caminero starting the season at third base, and he's like our exciting rookie. And it all is kind of falling flat, right? Like it's just not there. That's not what happened. Like what's falling flat is like all the little pushes they did. Like here's Rosario, let's trade Andrew Kittredge for Richie Palacios. Let's get Johnny DeLuca back for like kind of Manuel Margot.
All those deals have made the team better.
They've all worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your all-star left fielder is one of the worst hitters in baseball this year. That is not something you can ever plan for. Who's also, like you said, like you've been saying, one of the most consistent hitters in baseball.
And he's not 36. He's 28.
It's one of the players. It's not banking on like Astros, like banking on Jose Abreu. Right. Like when they signed that deal, everyone was like, that's kind of a bad deal. Like Jose Abreu is old and he kind of looks washed. And it's
hard for me to say it's the coaching, right? Because we talked all last year about Chad Mottola having added an extra gear for Randy. And in the first half, he was better than we'd ever seen him. More consistent than
the best version of a guy who is one of the better left fielders in the game. You can't plan for that. You can't plan for Josh Lowe straining his oblique, right? Like what's the issue? Like, and we've seen that happen all throughout baseball too, right? So it's not like, oh, the Rays training staff. How many oblique injuries? Sean Murphy with the Braves. Is the Braves training staff terrible? Spencer Strider just blew out his arm. Ronald Acuna just blew out his knee again. And Sean Murphy missed all of the season until now with an oblique injury.
In the year they won the World Series, they were an 86 win team. So like,
yeah, like injuries happen, that happens. But like, this is like a team. This team, I think it's one of those things to say, like, I can say like the team has played terrible so far. They have, especially on offense. The offense has been awful. Defensively, they've also made a lot of mistakes. They just haven't played like this team. But none of that is like none of it's predictive, right? Like none of this going forward, they should be playing like Randy should at any moment stop playing terribly. Like it could, like, there's no reason for him to be this bad for this long. And it's nothing I can really fault the front office. So getting to the like kind of the main question, right? Like, should this team have a fire sale? Should this team blow it all up? I look at that as like a fundamentally incorrect question about how the Rays function. Will the Rays trade Randy Arozarena, Zach Eflin, Phil Maton, and Ahmed Rosario at the deadline? Maybe. Will that mean that they are not competing? Probably not. Like that does not change the fact that they could be still competing or even better in the second half for that postseason spot. Because what you're trading there right now is Randy Arozarena, who is a below replacement level left fielder, Zach Eflin, who's a injured and kind of shaky fourth starter right now. Like the ceilings are higher, but like you could see the functional scenario like past Rays deadlines where they traded Chris Archer and they got back Glasnow and Meadows, who immediately made the team better. And they also went out and traded for Tommy Pham, who added. So I could see the team adding a player who might be into the future, like that they want now into the future, and trading guys that aren't really in the future for talent that's later on, but also a little help right now. Like I could see that happening.
Eric
or
Neander
trading Brandon Lau and calling up Junior Caminero. Like that could happen.
I don't think it's a net negative. Like it might be a net positive.
Like it could happen, right? It could happen. I think you could trade Randy and you could bring in like another kind of fringe outfielder and like maybe an outfield of Siri in center field, Johnny DeLuca in left field, and Josh Lowe in right field outproduces one that has DeLuca in center field and Randy in left. Very, very possible that you could see that happen. I just don't think trading at the deadline some of the big names equals the Rays are giving up and they're tanking. And that's the Rays nature is the name is not more important than the production.
Yeah, 2018. I'm getting those sorts of vibes. I think the 2018. I mean, they won 90 games. Let's not get it wrong. But I don't know if this team has 90 wins in them. It doesn't look like it. But a trade where, let's say you deal Eflin, and you're not going to get an Archer like haul, right? But then maybe you make something similar to the Tommy Pham trade, where you bring in an outfielder with years of control that plugs right into your lineup. Maybe there's a left-handed hitting DH that is more solidified, and maybe you trade Brandon Lau for pieces, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I don't feel much different about this year's team, but I feel a whole hell of a lot better about next year's team and the year after that, when your all your top prospects will be up. Caminero, Carson Williams, Xavier Isaac would be getting close in the next 2 or 3 years. Eric Neander has never blown it up. No. Matt Silverman, like the last time the Rays truly blew it up, I think it was still Andrew Friedman when you traded guys like Shields and Zobrist, and it was like this great exodus from those golden year Rays teams. Matt Silverman never even blew it up. Now he never had a good enough roster to blow it up, right?
Can't blow up rubble. He can't blow up rubble.
It's like Corey Dickerson, we'll trade him. Who cares?
I guess
Morrison,
technically people claimed he blew it up when he traded like Jake Odorizzi and Corey Dickerson and Steven Souza. Like, okay, cool, he blew up.
That might have been Neander though. And in hindsight, like all great moves. That
maybe, that's like a dilapidated building eventually just fell over, and it's like I don't think he demoed that. I think inertia destroyed that one. No, I like James Outman. Dodgers outfielder who's very good last year, has been really struggling this year, got demoted back down, and they have Andy Pages, who's been really well for the Dodgers.
Let's make
what if they're struggling on pitching? Like, what if they need a little pitcher, right? And Zach Eflin's available. Suddenly Andrew Friedman, Eric Neander, they link up, they make win-win trades all the time. Like James Outman's not bad. They don't hate James Outman, but like it may not fit. And maybe that's there. Or maybe they want Randy. Maybe they'll take their gamble on Randy and you do a Randy Eflin trade where you get a catcher of the future and James Outman. The Dodgers always throw in a really productive outfielder who was a former 40 future value prospect who does well. So like just keep that process going. No, like you could see that kind of trade, right? Where you're like, wow, the Rays are blowing it up because they traded that. But wait, they got like major leaguers back. That's weird. I don't know why they blew it up and then got people back for this year.
Are they buying or are they selling? I don't get it. And it's like, this is
I bet you're gonna see that headline. You're gonna probably see that headline this year. That's the one prediction I'll have. It's like, are they buying or are they selling? They're clearly selling because they traded these names that I know for these names that I don't. But then the names that you don't like when Drew, like speaking of Andrew Friedman, like blowing up, like they traded David Price to Detroit. Big trade, right? Huge trade. You know, your Cy Young guy traded, and like the Rays were kind of on the fringe of the postseason push at that point. Different postseason environment, fewer wild card teams.
Yeah.
Could see that being a very similar setup to this year. In that year, David Price pitched excellent for Detroit. Drew Smyly outpitched him for the Rays. Like, very weird. Drew Smyly has a very fantastically fun career. Like, just weird. Keeps getting injured, but like still like he'll like pop up, and like didn't he have like a perfecto or a no-hitter like last year, like late? I feel like I got a buzz, and I'm like,
but now he's a good
you,
like a really solid swingman, like a guy that I wouldn't hate having in like that role later in the year.
Maybe you trade for Drew Smyly, and you trade Eflin, and Smyly again outproduces out like he just outproduces in a weird like couple month period. But that's the thing, right? Like you can see this team. Like I don't see this team doing anything at the deadline that they're not prepared to do in the offseason. Like I don't see any big panic of like, clearly everything's broken, we need to change it. I think this is a team that has a plan. They know their window. They know what happened to that window when Wander Franco got arrested. They unlike some other people, are not speculating about like maybe Wander will come back. Pretty sure they've erased him from memory and have moved on.
Yeah.
So everyone else should as well, including the Tampa Bay Times. This is a team that I think could be very active at the deadline. I think it could be active even beforehand. And we've talked about this with like Harold Ramirez, right? Like trade him to open up a spot. Rosario feels to me like a guy, kind of circling back to, as that like not the star level players, not the big names, not Randy, not Paredes, not Lau, and not Yandy, but like as a player that you could see traded for a useful piece, like Phil Maton as well, like a reliever that a Rosario like level player that traded for something, because like that's something useful for somebody else that could also help you out in the near or short term. I could see that, especially when Walls is back, because just I don't know where Rosario gets his playing time kind of going forward. Again, if everybody's healthy. And I think you do have to look for like a room for Junior Caminero to come up. And I'd like that with Brandon Lau at DH. I'd like that. But like in the meantime, I'm pretty happy to see Jonathan Aranda play more. Like I just want to see this lineup have more batters like DeLuca and Palacios at the top of the order, who can like work counts, make pitchers' lives like hell. I want to see guys like Brandon Lau in the center of the order and Jonathan Aranda, who can put some charge into the ball. Want to see Yandy in there doing well, and Randy maybe with a more relaxed, like some breaks, some lower in the lineup, can feel a little loose, and like the production can come. He's not feeling a stress to maybe perform. He'll just slowly kind of come back and start feeling himself, because he can turn it on and get again molten lava hot for a short period, right. And the Rays need it, and
they do.
Maybe it starts with this Oakland series. Salvage this horrific homestand.
I think
where it looked like they could be.
Yeah, you really need a series win, I think, before going to Baltimore. I mean, like, think
about
it.
Win.
If you drop to a 3, like, I don't see you win. And crazier things have happened. I don't see you winning in Baltimore. So, like, say you win 2. If you go 2-4 this week, that puts you at 28-32, 4 games below 500. And it's like, again, time's not up, but the clock is ticking. And you're playing.
I mean, going forward,
Oakland at home.
Going forward, you got Oakland at home, who has played much better, by the way. If they have a lead in the 6th, it's over. Give up.
That's what I'm worried about, I think.
this lineup with the Rays are not the lineup to beat Mason Miller. They're probably not the lineup to beat Lucas Urseg either, but like they're definitely not beating Mason Miller. So you got to score earlier, which the Rays have been really bad at. So they're going to have to score earlier against Oakland's not great pitching outside of those elite relievers. But But you do have some good pitchers lined up for the Rays. You then got Baltimore, which, let's be honest, it feels like an easy sweep. But maybe the Rays play up to their competition. But then you got Baltimore, or you got Miami, and then before you have to face Baltimore again. Like this stretch here, like you really need to take advantage of Oakland and Miami, because Baltimore, like if you can just salvage not getting swept in both of those Baltimore series, that's a win. That's a win in your own right. Like you're way outclassed by Baltimore Orioles. Steal a win, and then maybe play competitive enough that you can steal a second one. That's what you got to look for. But take advantage of the bad teams. Like you really have to take advantage of these bad teams. You get after that, it's the Cubs, it's the Braves, it's the Twins. It does like lighten up a little bit for a while. It's this first stretch, right? You have like the Nats, you have the Rangers. Like the schedule is good. This little next stretch that we're in, it could get. I don't know if we've bottomed out yet. Let's just say that. I don't know if the Rays have bottomed out yet. I think the bottoming out might be the second half of the second series of Baltimore. And then the resurgence comes.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm still, I'm not feeling great about how quickly they're going to need to turn around to stay in it. But I am intrigued as to how they proceed, because there's still a lot to look forward to. And, I went to 3 Bulls games this week. Caminero, I saw a lot out of him, even though for most of the week the results weren't there. He had this really great at bat in the bottom of the 9th. They played the Memphis Redbirds this week, where got into a 2-strike count, and then there were the challenge system was in place. This was Friday night, and so was rung up twice, challenged both pitches, and they were both balls. And then fought off a couple foul balls, worked to a full count, and then ultimately grounded out to second to end the game when he was the tying run. But it was a great at bat, and to see him so poised and to know to challenge those borderline pitches and get those calls right, that was fun to see. And then went to yesterday's game and was actually sitting like right behind home plate, and he hit an opposite field home run, 107 off the bat, 23 degrees of launch angle, and the ball, it just kind of shot off his bat, and he had a great game, and he's getting a little more comfortable defensively. He's making those developmental strides that I think the Rays still want to see. The raw talent, the raw power has been there for quite some time now. The little things that he's going to need to put together to become a successful big leaguer, the Rays are in no rush, because he hasn't even turned 21 yet. I thought he'd turned 21 already. He's still 20. Seems like a great teammate. Was dumping, I think, Cameron Meisner with Gatorade after the game, after he had a great series, and was interacting with the crowd and the kids. I just really have liked what I've seen out of Junior Caminero, and I'm really excited. But they're not going to rush him. I still tend to think by July he'll be up, or he'll be very, very close, because the Rays are going to need him, and he's going to kind of force their hand. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Memorial Day. And off day on Memorial Day sucks. I wish we had a game to talk about today. It feel like I didn't know that, and 8 teams had today off. I don't know.
Second year in a row.
Is that new?
Second year in a row with 8 teams off on Memorial Day. It feels newer. It's bad.
I hate to pile on. Like, so many people say, "Oh, Major League Baseball doesn't know how to market itself. They don't know how to do this." Like, every other sport takes advantage of the holidays on their calendar and lean into those. In baseball, you have Memorial Day and you have the 4th of July. And these are like, very summery American holidays. We're going to have hot dogs and we're going to drink beer. Why would you not have all 30 teams playing baseball games? That does feel like a giant missed opportunity. And it bummed me out because I had nothing to do today. I relaxed.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the holiday. But yeah, I wish there was some baseball on, but that's a podcast for a different time. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Raise Your Voice. We are live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice. So if you're listening to this as a podcast, or you're over on X, head on over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on that notification bell so you can join us every time we go live. We're also wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Apple. If you leave a rating and review, that's the best way to spread what we do to more and more Rays fans. If you really want to say thank you, patreon.com/raiseyourvoice, where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. As always, make sure to head on over to draysbay.com to check out all of that great Rays coverage. That's going to do it. Once again, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.